Brian was from the northern part of Malawi. Not much is known about his childhood, whether he grew up with his parents or not. But one thing is clear: poverty shaped his life. It pulled him toward the wrong people, petty criminals and thieves. And before long, he was stealing too. For a time, he was never caught. But his small hometown didn't offer many opportunities, not even for crime. So Brian moved to Blantyre, the country's commercial capital, a bigger city with bigger targets. There, he linked up with seasoned criminals. He was still very young, probably in his late teens or early 20s. One night, he and his crew broke into a man's house. They thought it would be quick, easy, but they miscalculated. The homeowner was a strong man, physically imposing. He fought back hard. The gang tried to intimidate him, but he wouldn't give in. The man grabbed Brian, and the others tried to free him, only to realize this wasn't going to work. The man's strength was overwhelming. His punches sent the thieves scattering. Most of them fled. Brian was trapped. The homeowner slammed him against the wall again and again, beating him mercilessly. At that moment, Brian knew he had two options: fight or die. When the man bent down to grab him by the chest, Brian lunged forward and bit into the man's throat. He clamped down with everything he had. The homeowner hammered Brian's face with powerful blows, knocking out several of his teeth. But Brian didn't let go, and in the end, he tore through the man's throat and killed him. Bloodied and barely standing, Brian stumbled away into the night. A few weeks later, he joined a group of 5 robbers, 6 in total. Their target, a wealthy man's house in Blantyre, a house so well off that it had 2 armed security guards, which wasn't common in the country at the time. The date was the 7th of January, 2011. That night, the group ambushed the guards, disarmed them, and tied them up outside. One robber stood watch with one of the guns they took from the guards. Another guarded the back door, while the remaining 4, including Brian, searched the house. They found what they were looking for: 3 bags of money. But what they didn't know was that the house had a silent alarm. Within minutes, the police surrounded the property. The lookout outside was already dead by the time the others were preparing to leave. When the first robber with a gun stepped out, the police opened fire, shredding the armed robber to pieces. The rest of the gang panicked and scattered inside the house. But the police stormed the house and opened fire into any space they suspected. The robbers were gunned down brutally. Brian was hit too, riddled with bullets, especially from the waist down. When it was over, police dragged the bodies outside. Brian, still alive but barely conscious, was thrown on top of the heap. The corpses were loaded into a vehicle bound for Queen Elizabeth Central Hospital, one of the country's most relied upon hospitals. On the way, Brian overheard a chilling order. A senior officer instructed his men to finish him. Terrified, Brian begged for his life. He promised to cooperate, even to become an informant. But the officer wasn't interested. The order was carried out. Brian was shot in the chest. The following day at the hospital, doctors examined the bodies. All 6 were confirmed dead. The bodies were tagged, wrapped, and stored in the mortuary freezer. Days went by. On the 3rd day, the 10th of January, a security guard died suddenly while he was on duty. His body was also taken to the same mortuary. Brian's and the guard's body tags were just 1 digit apart. When the guard's family came to claim the body, mortuary staff accidentally pulled out Brian instead. By then, he had been frozen solid for 5 days. To show the family the face, morticians chipped away the ice and unwrapped the sheet. And in that moment, Brian's eyes opened. The family screamed and ran out of the room. Panic spread through the mortuary. Staff rushed in with hammers and began striking him, believing he was some kind of restless corpse. But something strange happened. Instead of killing him, the blows jump-started his system. Blood circulation returned. His body twitched back into life. Brian fought back, despite his shattered lower body. He wrestled a hammer from one of them and struck hard. sending one mortician fleeing for his life. By then, a crowd had already gathered outside, drawn by the rumors of a dead man coming back to life. Police and hospital officials rushed in to see what was happening. Brian shouted his names, every single name he had ever gone by, pleading that he was alive. To test his lucidity, officials asked him questions. Where are you? What do you see? What's the last thing you remember? His answers were clear and consistent. He was alive. He was rushed to the ICU. Over time, Brian underwent multiple surgeries. Charitable organizations stepped in to cover the costs. Slowly, against all odds, he recovered full mobility. But freedom wasn't waiting for him. He was tried, convicted, and sentenced to death. Then, gradually, his sentence was reduced. Death row became life imprisonment. Life became 111 years. Later, it was reduced again to 42 years. And finally, in 2023, Brian was pardoned. Today, Brian is a free man. He survived the beating from the jacked man, 22 bullets, being frozen for 5 days, and being hammered in the head by the morticians. Coincidence? I think not. Doctors have never been able to fully explain either. To this day, his survival remains one of Malawi's greatest unsolved mysteries. This story was originally told in Malawi's native language. Stories like these are rare, but there are many more still untold. If you'd like to hear more true stories like this one, real events, real places, and unbelievable survival tales and experiences, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.